Welcome back to a brand new video on the channel, guys. So what I have for you guys today, we have another episode of the Championship Transfer Rumour Roundup. And in the last week or so, a lot of drama has gone down in the Championship, which we will be rounding up in today's video, guys. Of course, we've had some transfer embargoes to go ahead and discuss in today's video, some recently completed deals, and of course, some Championship rumours which have been going around the Championship recently. So if you guys have seen any rumours going around the Championship recently, make sure to let me know about them in the comments down below, and leave a comment about what you make of all the recent speculation in the Championship. Of course, with England being knocked out of the World Cup devastatingly the other night, our full focus can now go back onto the Championship. So without further ado, guys, let's go ahead and hop in talking about some completed deals. So in the last week or so, quite a few deals in the Championship did go through. Of course, we saw Lewis Grabban complete his move to Nottingham Forest. Their attacking options looking stronger and stronger day by day now. Jack Hunt also went ahead and completed his move to Bristol City, moving from Sheffield Wednesday. That'll be quite a good option for Bristol City with how they like to attack with their fullbacks providing width. Jack Hunt will be a good option for them. Also as well, Hull City have been fairly busy in the last week or so. We spoke about Hull quite a lot in our last video when I gave you guys some of my early Championship predictions. Hull were one of the sides who I do anticipate to struggle this year. Their squad at the moment is looking quite thin, but they bolstered their options recently, signing David Milinkovic and Reece Burke in the last few days. Reece Burke, I think, will be a good option for them, especially as their defensive numbers were very limited before this week. Bolton Wanderers went ahead and completed the signing of Paweł Olkowski. I can't say I know all too much about him, but he is a Polish international, has made 13 caps for them, and is a right back, so he goes to bolster their options there, and does look to be a pretty solid signing for them. And probably one of the most interesting transfers which went down in the last week or so was that of Jordan Rhodes, who has moved to Norwich City on a season-long loan, of course moving from Sheffield Wednesday. Now, in my opinion, this could be a move which does suit both clubs. Of course, Sheffield Wednesday were in need of getting rid of some of their higher earners to go ahead and fall into line with FFP regulations for this season. They've gone ahead and done that, and Jordan Rhodes moving to Norwich, it gives them a different option going forward. With Jordan Rhodes, you still get that impression that he can still be a clinical goal scorer in the Championship, of course. Over the last few years, his confidence has seemed to drop off, but if Norwich can get him in the right system, playing back to his best, then they have got a top striker there, you know. Last season for Sheffield Wednesday, he only went ahead and scored 5 goals for them, but under Daniel Farke at Norwich, who knows what could happen. Also, what's interesting about this is perhaps with the signing of Jordan Rhodes, that could signify that Nelson Oliveira will be moving on in this transfer window. Norwich fans, what do you think? As well, some of the completed deals, we of course have to talk about the transfer embargo and Birmingham City. When I'm recording this video, the situation with Birmingham is still very unclear. Nothing's been totally resolved yet with what is actually happening with this embargo. For the time being, it has been reported that Birmingham can't actually register any new players until this embargo has been sorted out and it has been lifted by the EFL. Of course, last season Birmingham spending a lot of money and wasting a lot of money under Harry Redknapp, and that seemingly has caught up with them. And it was also recently reported that up to 6 clubs could be facing a transfer embargo in the Championship after failing to align with financial fair play. So in the next couple of days or weeks, we could see some very interesting stories breaking from the Championship. Birmingham, though, are looking to resolve the transfer embargo, and transfer embargoes are a funny thing, really. You know, they can be lifted in a matter of days or weeks if Birmingham do manage to resolve this and sort out their financial fair play regulations with the EFL, or it could take place over a number of transfer windows. So we're just going to have to wait this one out with Birmingham. But despite Birmingham being temporarily under a transfer embargo, they're still being linked to some pretty mad players, which we'll get into now. So they're being linked with a move for Joe Hart at the moment, with the bookmakers actually making Birmingham the favourites to go ahead and sign him, which would be a pretty weird sign, of course. David Stockdale, of course, currently being linked with a move away from Birmingham, and throughout this transfer window, really, they have been linked with a number of goalkeepers. Birmingham fans, what do you make of this one? Would you like to see Joe Hart make a return to Birmingham? Of course, it was back in around 2011 when he was actually loaned out to Birmingham while they were in the Premier League. Over the last few years, Joe Hart's career seems to have taken a bit of a nosedive, really. Of course, he's back training with Man City at the moment. However, it is more than likely that he will be leaving in this transfer window. And is the Championship really Joe Hart's level nowadays? I mean, it might be. Still, it would be a mad signing if Birmingham did pull it off. However, unlikely it is. You know, I can't see it happening myself. Another player Birmingham are being linked to, despite being under an embargo, is Bartosz Bilkowski, the Ipswich Town goalkeeper. Now, in one of my recent videos where I made a video of 10 players who I think are good enough to play in the Premier League, Bilkowski was actually one of those players who's involved in Poland's World Cup squad this summer and is a terrific keeper for Ipswich Town. In my opinion, they're going to have to do everything to go ahead and keep hold of him. Probably is one of their most consistent performers performance with Martin Waghorn, and the amount of points that he saved Ipswich in the last few seasons has been undeniable. Middlesbrough at the moment are a side who are being linked to a lot of players at the moment, the first of which being Matty Phillips, currently playing for West Brom. Now, there is a connection with this transfer, of course, with Tony Pulis previously working with Phillips from his time at West Brom. Matty Phillips in the Championship, I think, would do absolute damage. He's played in the Championship before for sides like QPR and Blackpool, and although he's never really been the most prolific goal scorer in terms of a winger, I think his highest scoring season in the Championship was only 8 goals. The pace he brings to that Borough attacking line, could you imagine if they kept hold of Adama Traore and had Matty Phillips on the opposite wing? They would absolutely terrorise defensives. One thing that I see being a bit of a snag going into this deal is the price tag would be quite a lot. I'd see that Middlesbrough, with the money they've already spent in this transfer window, probably would have to offload a couple of their players before they went in for a player like Matty Phillips, but that would be a very big sign if it did come off. And they're also being linked with a move for Sam Vokes, currently playing for Burnley. This would be an incredible signing if they were able to pull this one off, of course. With some of the Middlesbrough strikers' futures being uncertain at the moment, the likes of Britta Sombolonga and Ashley Fletcher, bringing in a player like Sam Vokes would really put Middlesbrough's attacking options as some of the best in the Championship, really. His highest scoring season in the Championship came in the 2013/14 season with Burnley, as he was able to score 20 goals that year, and with service from players like Adama Traore and possibly Matt Phillips, they would have an incredible attacking trio there. Also being linked with a move back for Mohamed Besic, of course. They had him on loan from Everton last season. Once again, would be a fantastic signing for them. I think he showed last season with his time at Middlesbrough he's more than capable of being probably one of the best DMs in the Championship. And we do need to talk about Aston Villa for a moment. They are in a very interesting situation at this point in time. Steve Bruce actually had an interview on Sky Sports the other day where he basically came out and said that they are probably going to have to sell the likes of Jack Grealish, James Chester and Jonathan Kodjia in this transfer window, which perhaps would mean that clubs will be coming in for those players and they will get them at a cut price perhaps. So the question I asked the Aston Villa fans is, what valuation would you place on those 3 players, and without them, where do you realistically see yourselves finishing next year? And speaking about Jonathan Kodjia, he's currently a main target for Leeds United. Speaking of Leeds at the moment, things are moving incredibly slow there. They've only gone ahead and signed 1 player on loan so far in this transfer window. They're yet to announce a kit yet as well, and everything just seems to be very slow since Marcelo Bielsa has arrived. Leeds fans, what do you make of that down below? But the signing of Jonathan Kodjia would be an absolute phenomenal deal for Leeds United, of course. Last season wasn't able to show his best at Villa as he was out with an injury for the majority of it, but the season before that managing to score 19 goals, and the season before that with Bristol City popping up with 19 goals as well. So he's a clinical goal scorer in the Championship, just the sort of player which would fit into this Leeds United system. Of course, at the moment with the current deal with Mate Vidra, that doesn't look to be going through anymore, as Leeds and the player have had a disagreement on wages. It seems they're currently not matching up with what they want. So a player like Jonathan Kodjia would do very well for Leeds. Also, Leeds United have seemingly entered the race for Jordan Hugill. He's not really wanted by West Ham. It was a bit of a funny transfer when it went through in the first place, but he will be made available for a loan deal, and coming into a team like Leeds, I think Hugill would do very well, you know. His hold-up play, knocking it onto some of those players in behind him like Pablo Hernandez and Saiss. His hold-up play would do very well in the Championship, and he is probably one of the best target men in the Championship on his day, in my opinion, and for a loan you can't really go wrong with that. And speaking of Leeds United, currently Pontus Jansson is being linked with a move to West Brom, of course. West Brom also interested in Kyle Bartley, so maybe they're looking to rekindle that partnership between Bartley and Pontus Jansson, of course. Currently the fee they're willing to pay is reportedly around about £10 million. I'd argue that Leeds would be looking at him for more than that, you know. He's still on a 4-year contract, one of the best defenders in the Championship, and the heartbeat of that backline for Leeds United. So Leeds fans, what do you make of all the speculation linking Pontus Jansson to West Brom at the moment? Let me know down below. And Sheffield United are continuing their search for a striker, of course. We mentioned this in our previous video. Sheffield United at the moment really need to address pace going forward, and they are doing that with the players they're being linked to at the moment. Currently Kemar Roofe is one of their targets, currently playing for Leeds United. Last season in the Championship managing to score 11 goals. When he does get a consistent run in the team, I think he can be a very effective striker, and at a club like Sheffield United, I personally think someone like Kemar Roofe would do very well. West Brom are also said to be interested. Sheffield United are also interested in the move for Scott Hogan, currently playing for Aston Villa. Last season he managed to score 6 goals. Most of them appearances for Hogan last year were off the bench, as he was down the pecking order a little little bit behind players like Graben and Kodjia when he came back. Quite interesting about Scott Hogan. I do feel like at Aston Villa he's lost a little bit of edge to his game. You know, he's not quite playing with that full confidence like we saw him playing with at Brentford a couple seasons ago, but this move probably will be a loan deal, and with Aston Villa looking to reduce the wage bill at the club at the moment, this deal could go through. But perhaps one of the most interesting transfer rumours going around the Championship at the moment is that of Sam Winnall, who is being linked with a move to Sheffield United, of course, currently being a Sheffield Wednesday player. Fans of United and Wednesday, let me know down below what you make of this speculation, and Sheffield United fans, would you like to see Sam Winnall become a United player? In my opinion, he can be a very effective striker. He has got unlucky over the last 2 seasons with injuries, you know, that really has held him back a little bit. Last season, of course, he was loaned out to Derby County, and you know, at the start of that loan deal, he was looking on fire until he went ahead and got injured. With Derby, he managed to go ahead and score 6 goals in 17 appearances, 11 of them coming as a substitute. So in the Championship, I do think he can be a very effective striker. You know, he showed that with his time at Barnsley. His time at Wednesday hasn't really worked out for him, but perhaps a move to Sheffield United could be the one for him. Stoker, of course, still chasing the signature of Matt Ritchie. This would be a terrific deal if it did go through. One thing that has perhaps bolstered this deal going through is the fact that Newcastle were able to sign Kennedy back on loan from Chelsea going into this season, of course. They probably are going to look to replace Ritchie before they go ahead and sell him. Reportedly, Newcastle are after Andros Townsend from Crystal Palace, and if that transfer does go through, chances are Matt Ritchie to Stoke could be on. Stoke are also being linked to a couple of Liverpool wingers at the moment. They're being linked to Shea Iojo and Harry Wilson. Harry Wilson probably being the better of those 2 players. You know, he showed from his time on loan at Hull City last season he can be a devastating player in the Championship, and one thing that could mean that this deal does go through is Harry Wilson could be involved in a swap deal for Xherdan Shaqiri, of course. Shaqiri going to Liverpool and then Harry Wilson going to Stoke on a loan deal. Harry Wilson on one side, Matt Ritchie on the other, with someone like Afobe up front for Stoke. They would be a devastating front 3. Another Liverpool winger being linked around the Championship is Ben Woodburn. Of course, he really burst onto the scene last season. Currently, he has been linked with a move to both Sheffield United and Norwich City. Will be a very effective player in the Championship. And it looks like Swansea City will be going in for Joel Osoro, currently playing for Sunderland. Reportedly, they are preparing a £2 million bid for the front man. Of course, can either play as a striker or as a winger, and his pace and directness going forward I think would be very effective for a club like Swansea. You know, he showed in the second half of last season, of course, it was a very struggling side at Sunderland, but when Chris Coleman did come in and implement some of the younger players into the team, Osoro was one of the players who stood out in a pretty poor Sunderland side last season. And there's never really a dull moment around Nottingham Forest, and they're currently being linked with a move for Bournemouth fullback Tyrone Mings, and this would be a very promising signing for Forest indeed. I did say in my last video about Nottingham Forest, I still feel like in terms of personnel, defensively they are a little bit light in my opinion, especially some of their fullbacks, but a signing like Tyrone Mings would be an incredible bit of business for them. Since arriving at Bournemouth, he's not really played the most games. I think he only played a handful of games for them last season really, so a move back to the Championship would probably make sense for him, but the physical presence he brings to that back line and his power and agility really would go a long way in fitting into this Aita Karanga Nottingham Forest side, who I've got to say they are looking very exciting going into this season. Quite an interesting transfer rumour at the moment is that of Darren Gibson, who has been linked with a move to Wigan Athletic. I do believe in the last few weeks he has actually been training with the Wigan squad, so perhaps he's on trial there, and Paul Cook will be assessing whether he's worth taking a risk on or not, of course. Last season for Darren Gibson, you know, it was an absolute disaster. He was, of course, arrested for drunk driving, and everything was just a disaster for Darren Gibson, really. If he is able to prove his fitness, he could be a valuable player at Wigan next season, but I don't know, I'd probably be looking at other options. 2 players who are being linked to Wigan at the moment who do excite me, however, are 2 former wingers. The first of which being Callum McManaman, who is being linked for a move to Wigan Athletic, probably on a loan deal from Sunderland, of course. Of course, previously playing for Wigan from 2008 to 2015, he was a very successful player when he went ahead and played there, of course, won the FA Cup from his time at Wigan. Since leaving, he's never really gone on to elevate his career, really. You know, he's sort of stagnated, and every club he's been at, he's only made a handful of appearances, you know. But moving back to a side like Wigan, I think would be quite vital for his career, really, of course. Getting that move back to the Championship, getting first team football, and he would fit into that Wigan side, who are in need of a couple of wingers at the moment. Interestingly enough, Wigan are also being linked with a move for Yannick Vilcher, of course, another former Wigan Athletic player, of course, moving to Norwich City for a fee of £7 million, and of course, he was then loaned out to Cardiff City, and his move at Norwich hasn't really gone ahead and worked out. You know, Daniel Farke doesn't seem to be the biggest fan of him, so a move back to Wigan, probably on loan again, would probably make sense for this one. So the question I would ask to Wigan fans is, which winger would you prefer to see back at the club? Would you rather see Vilcher or McManaman? Let me know down below. Transfer rumours around Derby County have been fairly slow at the moment. You know, I feel like a lot of that is to do with Mate Vidra and this whole saga surrounding him. Will he stay, will he go? The sooner that is resolved, the better, really. But one player they are being linked to at the moment is Mason Mount, currently playing for Chelsea, last season on loan at Vitesse, and reportedly he is being offered a new deal by Chelsea, and when that deal does go through, he will then be loaned out to Derby County. From what I've seen of him, he is a very influential, creative midfielder who would go ahead and fit into this Derby side. You know, they are in need of that sort of player after they've of course lost Casey Palmer as he returned from his loan last season. And we're also seeing Blackburn Rovers being linked with a move back for Adam Armstrong. I think this would actually be a very good deal for them. He was on loan at Blackburn Rovers in League One last season for the second half of it, and in that time managed to go ahead and score 9 goals for them. He's never really been the most prolific of goal scorers in the Championship, really. You know, his goal scoring record never really the best, but for a side like Blackburn, who are in need of pace going forward, and as he already has a good team dynamic with this side already, this will be a very good signing in my opinion. Probably going to be on the loan deal, but his pace going forward is just what Blackburn are in need of at the moment. So guys, there you have it. There are some of the transfer rumours which are currently going around the Championship. So if you guys have seen any that we didn't mention in today's video, make sure to get them down below and we can have a discussion about all the stuff going on around the Championship at the moment. Like I said, that will go on to wrap up the video, guys. So if you have enjoyed, make sure you do leave a like. It is always massively appreciated. Now that the World Cup is all but over, of course, we still have the final, but England unfortunately did get knocked out. The videos will be coming up a lot more regularly on the channel now, so make sure you do watch out for them and make sure you do subscribe for some regular Championship content. But apart from that, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.